Hey everyone, Robert here, author of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life. Are you ready to start living life to the fullest? Are you ready and willing to transform yourself and your life from ordinary to extraordinary? Welcome, my friends, to the Fully Engaged Life. Welcome back to the show, everyone. The latest update on the new www.expansionmastery.com website is coming along fantastically. Finally, we're almost done. We hope to have it up very soon. It may even be up by the time you are listening to this. If not, the following week, for sure it should be up. So be ready for that. It's very, very visually pleasing, very easy to navigate. Easier than ever to shop on there, and there's some new content that I'll be putting up shortly in addition to the new content that's up there. So make sure and check out www.expansionmastery.com. You will once again be able to get your autographed copy of Expansion Mastery, as well as the newly revised and expanded edition of my highly popular ebook, Reinventing Yourself Through Realignment. There's a bunch of new and very powerful content in this ebook, so I highly recommend you check it out. I've gotten tremendous feedback from it already, and people have come up to me and told me how it has made such a positive impact in their lives, and in some cases changed it in very powerful ways. So make sure and check that out. So as you know, living a fully engaged life is when we become consciously aware enough, awakened enough, that we are able to live life with gusto, to live it as a grand adventure. But in order to do so, we have to attain a state of mindfulness while always progressing and learning and moving towards awakening. You see, this is the key that unlocks our potential to live fully engaged. Living fully engaged refers to a very particular state of mental development that we have attained that allows us to do so, to live beyond the ordinary, to live in a way that is truly extraordinary. And that doesn't mean just more things or more expensive things or more money or that stuff, right? That isn't what it is. It's learning how to raise our mental state, to once again unite with our consciousness, and to live life from our essence, from our consciousness, instead of from our ego. This is the main thing that is required for living a fully engaged life. And as you well know, meditation is a huge part of this. However, I'm going to address something else today, and I'm going to address this because this is very important. And that is making sure that we engage practices with the body as well. Now, I've said this before, but I'm going to present some new material for you because I think it's very timely and I think it's incredibly important and necessary for us to take this very seriously in our training. We need to make sure that we are engaging the physical body. The body is part of what we use in order to allow ourselves to attain mindfulness and awakening. For instance, even if we're seated in meditation, it is the posture of the body that is also involved when we perform meditative practices as well as meditation itself. Now, when we're doing meditative practices, that can even include some chi work, right? Some vital energy work, in which case, obviously, it's imperative that we engage the physical body. We know that through any form of internal training and spirituality, that what we are trying to do is to unify the mind and the body, to integrate them into one cohesive unit. And then from there, we're able to go deeper into our meditation and connect with our consciousness. This is when we are truly living from mind, body, and spirit. The mind and body become one. They're already intimately linked, right? When we die, we cease to continue to have a body or a mind. Where one goes, so does the other. Just like the chi then leaves the body at that point, and we are in a state of pure conscious awareness and nothing else, just energy. So what I'm going to stress today is the importance of making sure that we have some sort of practice in place. And you can do it through Tai Chi, you can do it through Qigong, you can do it through yoga, whatever it is that works for you, whatever is of interest to you, whatever you feel is most beneficial to you, this is perfectly fine. So you choose the method. I'm just asking that you make sure that you have some practice like that in your set of daily practices and your spiritual practices as well. As we know from many spiritual systems, martial arts systems, and so on, integrating the body and mind is extremely important. The Japanese sometimes refer to it as shinjin, which is literally mind-body, and this is referring to the body-mind, right? And the Chinese refer to this as the mind inhabiting the body. I think this is very fascinating. But beyond it being fascinating, it is essential to our practices. So let me explain a little bit why. The brain has a tendency to run the body. And if we look at this from an energetic perspective, that means there's a lot of energy around the brain. There's a lot of energy that's drawn up to the brain that may not be circulating throughout the body quite evenly enough or smoothly enough or even just enough at all to be very beneficial for us. And if we have jobs that require us to really be in our head, really be thinking and acting from the brain, computer work and all these things, then we know that this causes a lot of excess energy to build up around the brain, right? The brain kind of overheats. And this is why we get these headaches. We get these type of tension headaches a lot. Now, what happens is when we do this enough, when we spend hour after hour after hour every day or most days in that state, what happens is we get kind of stuck in our head. We're thinking too much, and then we have a tendency to just naturally overthink every situation. And this can be a spiral that takes us way out of control and makes it difficult for us to sleep, difficult for us to focus, difficult for us to relax. And I can remember where stress wasn't always this big concern. When that started to be diagnosed as a problem was when computers came online and more jobs started to incorporate this sort of constant thinking. Now, maybe an accountant or somebody like that had that sort of stress on them before because they had to be in their head so much, but now it's part of most jobs, especially those that are high paying or in certain industries. And then, of course, now people have a tendency to surf the internet or they're on their cell phones texting all the time, this sort of thing, scrolling Facebook and Twitter and watching things on YouTube and Netflix and going to movies and constantly playing video games. You see, all of this serves to take us more into our head and cause this separation between mind and body. And you can see that a lot of people, they tend to forget about their body. A lot of them don't even care about their body anymore. And this is where the real danger lies in this, because this goes beyond stress. What happens is we have this disconnection between our mind and our physical body. And as this happens, as this takes place, we have the tendency to disconnect from physical reality itself. Take a moment and let that sink in. As we lose touch with our physical body, we start to lose touch with physical reality. Think about the implications of that. I mean, we can follow this and get real deep, going into the illusory nature of existence just from this alone. But we want to realize, see, this is what's happening to a lot of people as they're unable to distinguish actual physical reality with fantasy or virtual reality. And when this happens, we're dealing with a mental health issue now, aren't we? But see, this is why it's happening so much, is people are getting so stuck in their heads, so disconnected from their physical form, not in a positive way, in a way that's controlled by ego and virtual reality. And then a lot of these people are choosing to surrender their lives and just sit there and stare at a screen and live their life in this virtual reality. That's not really living. That's not real life. It's fake. You're actually just rotting away. You're throwing your life away when you do this. It's when we're out there in the world being physical, using our mind and body together to enjoy everything that the world has to offer. That's when we're living. This is how you live a fully engaged life. So you can't live a fully engaged life when your face is in a screen, when you're stuck in your head, when you're living with a mind that is dominated daily, from moment to moment, by your ego. So the more we surrender ourselves to these programs on YouTube and Netflix and even television, if anybody watches that anymore, as well as all the games and all the texting and all the stuff you're doing on these screens, you cause yourself to lose touch with reality. We have to be very, very careful. We have to use tech responsibly. We can't allow it to become an addiction. As soon as it does, it takes a hold of us. It's rewiring our brain. And at that point, we start to lose touch with reality itself. And then we find ourselves unable to distinguish truth from falsehood, fantasy from reality, physical reality from a virtual reality. And then it gets even worse because people will throw away their life in physical reality in favor of this fake thing in virtual reality. Virtual reality is not reality at all, because it is only through actual reality that we are experiencing. So you aren't experiencing anything in virtual reality. It's an illusion. It's actually an illusion within an illusion, so you get drawn into your head so far, so deep, you can't get out. So what do? Obviously, limiting the amount of time you interact with these things, especially forms of entertainment when you're just wasting time, right? Passing time, scrolling, looking at this. Those are precious moments you're throwing away of your life. We have to become mindful enough, conscious enough to recognize that we're being sucked in, and we have to make the conscious decision to no longer live that way. I have students and clients that I work with, and a lot of these guys, they say, oh yeah, I got in that practice today. I say, how long you do it? Oh, I did it for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I did it for an hour and a half. And this is really, really great. And it sounds incredible, right? But then I have them explain, how many hours did you spend on your cell phone, in front of a screen, playing video games, watching YouTube, TV, or Netflix, or whatever? How much time did you spend being entertained in the day? And it is usually substantially more, anywhere from 5 to 10 times more than what they did with their practice. Do you see how the practice is just not enough, because you're undoing everything you're trying to do in the practice? So you make a little headway. It's the proverbial one step forward, two to maybe 5 steps backwards, right? Where you make a little progress, but then you go back into the screen stuff, back into the entertainment, and it pulls you back again, so you're making no real progress. I'm pointing this out so you can avoid that trap. make sure that your practices, whatever you're doing physically, whatever you're doing spiritually, make sure those things outweigh what you're doing with the tech and entertainment. Don't succumb to the distraction of those things and allow yourself to be distracted for more time than you're putting into your physical and spiritual practices. Whether you're doing yoga, lifting kettlebells, on a Bowflex, running, doing, Tai Chi or Bagua or Qigong or meditation, whatever. Any of these things that you're doing, make sure those outweigh what you're doing with entertainment and tech. It's very disturbing that things have come to this, but this is what it takes now to start to practice and make progress. This is the first step in our practices now. This is the world we live in. All right, so I've pointed out the problem, and I've stressed the severity of that problem and how it is increasing every day. So we have to be very careful. Now, here's some things you can do about it. I always like to present you with a solution, not just the problem. So we've got some solutions here. We've got some things we can do. One of the things we want to do is learn to relax the physical body. You can do this standing up. You can do this during a practice, whatever it is. You want to learn to relax the body. So the first way, very easy way to start to get the mind and the body is to focus at your top of your head and to just go down through your body all the way to your toes and hold a sense of awareness in different body parts, different muscle groups, different joints, things like that, and try to make sure that you are relaxed. Physically relax each one of those areas. Find the tension that has crept in that maybe you didn't even recognize was there, and physically relax. The next thing we want to do is be able to drop our mind into our body, and that's one thing that'll help. The other way is to place your hands on your abdomen and breathe from your abdomen instead of your chest. This is a good way to practice getting your mind in the body because you have to hold the mind's awareness, the attention in that area of your lower belly in order to breathe from there without it just mindlessly flipping back up to your chest. Getting the chi down is a little more difficult to do realistically. I find when it comes to a lot of the energy practices, there's a lot of imagination that's happening in that and not a lot of reality. But if we can relax our physical body enough and we can relax our mind enough and go into a meditative state to where the brain is in the theta wave state, and we're able to minimize, or even better, still altogether our random thoughts, if we can have that sort of stillness, at that point we can start to use our breath while holding our mental awareness in our lower abdomen. We can begin to draw this energy that builds in the head and chest downward into your center, the lower dantian, for those of you who work with qi practices or study various internal Chinese arts. The Japanese arts might refer to it as the tanden or commonly the hara. But through doing that, you will allow the mind to begin inhabiting the body. You will start to activate the body mind. You'll bring this together, and you'll be able to bring some of that mental awareness and energy out of the head, from being stuck in the head back down in the body. It's supposed to be throughout the entire body, not just all stuck up in the head this way. But the important thing to understand is that we cannot simply will ourselves to put our mind in our body. We have to engage specific practices in order to invite that to happen in a whole different way, much deeper than what you may rationalize it is. So through the engagement of physical practices that also employ the mind in very specific ways, again, whether that's Tai Chi or Bagua or Qigong or yoga or some form of martial art, this is fine. Something that trains you to hold a sense of awareness in your body at all times. Here's a real easy exercise that you can do. Go for a walk out in nature or around your backyard. If you do it in your backyard, go barefoot. And the whole time you're walking, see if you can hold your mental awareness in your center of gravity, right around the belly button, and maybe a little lower in that area, right? See if you can hold your mind there the entire time, even as you look around, whether you're out in the woods or climbing a mountain, enjoying all of the splendor and beauty of nature, or if you're just walking around the backyard with your dog. Hold a constant sense of awareness in your center. The key here, as with everything, is consistency. We need to be able to hold it there without forgetting about it, without being distracted from it. The longer you are capable of that, the more you're starting to draw that mind back down into your body. And then you're going to be able to feel the body again. You'll become more coordinated, more graceful in your movements. And a lot of people share with me that they just feel a heck of a lot better. They feel healthier. They feel more vibrant. Of course. We need the mind not in our head. We need the mind in the entire body. And we know the seat of the heart, the seat of the soul, is in our chest, right? Around the heart area. That's where the mind is usually said to be located and perceived in many cultures. But even those cultures in the East where that was common have now started to lose that as they become more addicted to the tech and the entertainment and the distraction nature of life as well. So while the seat of the mind is perceived to be in the center of the chest, we also know that we have this layer of our aura that is the mental body. And so the mind is all around us. It's supposed to be throughout our entire body from head to toe and even out into our aura this way. This is a way to understand the mind and the importance of maintaining the connection between the mind and the body. When we have that disconnection, that's when we start running into a whole variety of both physical and mental problems. And when the mind and body are significantly unified, we can really, really experience the adventure of our life. We're feeling more, we're realizing more, we're perceiving more on so many different levels. This is when you're living a fully engaged life. So my word of caution to you is make sure that your practice does not consist solely of just seated meditative practices or seated meditation. We have to be able to engage the body and have practices in place that allow the mind to be deeply unified with the physical body. And when the mind and body are rooted properly to physical reality, it allows us then to begin to work with spirituality. Because what we're trying to do then is to reconnect ourselves to our essence, where we can separate from the ego. And this is the importance of getting in touch with, reconnecting to the observer, because when we become the observer and observe our body and our mind, which I've taught you how to do in the mindfulness practices, when you are able to observe your mind thinking and your body breathing, things like that, that separates your essence, you, from your mind, where the ego is. And once you do that, you are able to watch the ego. Once you're able to start observing your ego, you start to separate from it and the ego dissolves. Imagine that. That's the process. It can be rather simple. Now, I'm not saying easy. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's simple. So I'm just illustrating how, as we get more intensely unified with the mind and body, that opens up the ability to then go deeper spiritually because it gives us a root. Remember, if we're going to soar upwards, raising our vibration, we need to have ourselves firmly grounded in reality. This is a principle of heaven and earth. As we realize this, it makes the purpose of our practices much clearer to us. So I would recommend asking yourself, what practice do I have that I do daily? And am I doing it more than I am engaging in some form of tech, entertainment, or distraction? And does that practice incorporate the physical body? And does that physical body practice incorporate getting the mind into my body and maintaining a sense of awareness for it? If not, I would highly recommend you start that today. It's not difficult to begin, and it's not difficult to perform. We just have to remember to do it, and we have to get ourselves into a place where we prefer to do that as opposed to being entertained. As you practice this, watch, because you will start being more present in your life than ever before, and in ways you never thought possible. Until next time, my friends, I wish you the very best in these practices and all the practices you engage in, as well as your life. Take care.